Hello YouTube, Dave here again. We are approaching the holiday season a lot faster than I was honestly prepared for. But I always like to do something around this time of year where I put together some holiday gift guides. Now, sometimes I will incorporate several RPGs into a single video, but I think this year what I want to do is sort of do this for separate role-playing games and just see how many of these I can get out before we get into the actual holidays themselves. Today I'm going to be focusing on the Pathfinder role-playing game. Predominantly second edition Pathfinder, but there's a little bit of love for first edition Pathfinder that I'm going to throw in there as well. So the first thing that I want to show here, the first couple of things, they're not necessarily new products that came out in 2021, but they are great for either beginners or for individuals that you're trying to get to try out the Pathfinder role-playing game. Maybe they've never experienced before, or maybe they've taken a break from RPGs in the past and they're interested in getting back into the hobby, and you want to sort of ease them into the system of your choice. So with Pathfinder 2nd Edition, if you know someone that is maybe younger or never played an RPG before, but they're interested in trying it out, one of the things that I would recommend is the Pathfinder 2nd Edition Beginner Box. Now, Paizo puts out some of the best beginner boxes or starter sets, whatever you want to call them, that I have ever seen. There's tons and tons of great stuff in here, and this one is certainly no exception. So inside of this box, you get a set of dice that everyone at the table can use. You get these pawns, these sort of stand-up, cardboard stand-ups that you can use to represent where the characters and the monsters are. You have a set of pre-made characters that use a simplified version of the Pathfinder 2e rule set in order to, again, just sort of make it easier to pick up and learn, and then you can eventually, once you get comfortable with this, you can move on to the more complex complete rules. But there's also several blank character sheets that you can use to create your own characters. In addition, there's a double-sided poster mat, or double-sided flip mat, actually, that it can be used with dry or erase markers. Dry or wet erase markers, I should say, a Hero Builder's Guidebook, and a Game Master's Guidebook that contains an adventure that you can start your players off with, as well as some really good advice on how to design and create your own encounters, adventures, and things like that going forward. So it's just a lot of really great advice in this product. US retail price is $39.99, and it is worth, in my opinion, every single penny. So if you know someone that's interested but they don't know where to begin, this is what I would recommend. Now let's just say either they already have the beginner box, or it's someone that you're trying to get into Pathfinder from either if they're more experienced with other RPGs but they want to try something new, or again, they've sort of taken a bit of a break from gaming and trying to get back into it. Or if they're just someone that likes to, now that things are starting to open up back up again, if they're individuals that like to play or run games in a public setting and they're worried about lugging around a heavy backpack full of these massive hardcover books, there are some alternatives, and these alternatives are the Pathfinder 1st and 2nd Edition Pocket Edition books. So these are the exact same books as their hardcover counterparts, down to the page count, the page layout, all the page references will always be the same. It's literally the exact same book. It's just sort of shrunk down to a smaller size. But these books are about half the price point of their hardcover counterparts. Now, if you're interested in getting into Pathfinder 1st Edition, for example, the hardcover books have pretty much all gone out of publication as far as I know. However, these pocket editions are still in print to this day. I'm recording this late November of 2021, and at least up until this point, these pocket editions are still being produced. So if you're interested in trying out the 1st edition Pathfinder game, then these pocket editions, you should be able to find them at either your local game store can order them in if they don't have them there, or some like major book retailers should be able to get these in if they don't have them in stock as well. So really, really great stuff. And again, this is a 500 plus page core rulebook for the 1st edition one for $24.99 US. It's a really great price. It's about half of what the hardcover was at the time. Now, the 2nd edition Pathfinder core rulebook, the hardcover is obviously still in print because it is the current version of the game, but it's around $60 US, and this one is $29.99 US for the Pocket Edition. Now, also with the Pocket Editions, they tend to incorporate the errata into them. So even if you know someone that has like the original like first print of the core rulebooks, there may be some things that have been errated or updated or changed that might appear in the Pocket Editions that weren't in the hardcover. And again, I know for myself personally, if I go back to running games in a public setting, for Pathfinder, I'm going to be taking these pocket editions so that I'm not breaking my back carrying a ton of hardcover books. So really, really great stuff there. Highly recommend checking these out if you haven't already. All right, so we've covered sort of like beginners or people that you're trying to get into the game, but what about your friends or family members that are actually already into second edition Pathfinder? What kinds of things can you get for them? Well, there's all kinds of really great stuff here. So the first thing I want to talk about is if you have a game master in your group or friend or family or what have you, and they're looking for something new to run in the new year or during the holiday break, we've got some really great adventures that Paizo has put out. The first two that I'm going to show here are some adventure paths, so you sort of get examples of the different types of pre-made adventures that you can get from these companies. So the first one we have here is the Fist of the Ruby Phoenix. So this is a 3-part adventure path. So if it's something that you're trying to buy for a friend that's a game master, and you can only afford or you only want to get them the one because these things can get up there as far as price goes if you're buying too much all at once. But if you give them this adventure path installment, it's only 3 books long, so it's a lot easier for them to go out and get parts 2 and 3 and then run the entire path. So it's really great stuff there. They also have these 6-part adventure paths, like what we have here with the Strength of Thousands. And again, these are both, either of these are, a great way to spend some time. But I'm just showing you there's different types of adventure paths. There are shorter ones, there are longer ones. But the retail price for these are all about the same at $24.99 US. And you get several sessions of gameplay and fun out of these. It's a great way to spend some time, and the adventure pass for Pathfinder, it's kind of been Paizo's bread and butter, going back to the days before they even had the Pathfinder role-playing game or even the Pathfinder property when they were producing adventures for Dungeon Magazine. So Adventure Pass is something that Paizo has extensive experience with, and the quality of them is fantastic. They always have these unique elements to them. Just some really, really great stuff here. So definitely worth checking out. But let's just say you're looking for something a little bit more self-contained. Maybe you're only looking for a single adventure, or the game master doesn't have the means to purchase additional adventure paths or the time to get to do so. Or, we're all grown-ups, right? So having the time commitment to run an extended campaign can be difficult. So Paizo does have also a collection of standalone modules or adventures that you can get. And what's really cool about these adventures is they also usually come not together, but they do produce around the same time flip mats that you can use if your game master or group uses like the pawns or miniatures for combat. So the first one I'm going to show here is the adventure Malevolence. Now, this adventure is one of my all-time favorite adventure books that I've read in a very, very long time. I'd put it, in the top 5, probably adventures that I've read in like the last decade, honestly. I really, really love this adventure. It's sort of a haunted house kind of scenario, but it's done so well. And there are some of the conventions that you would think with a haunted house that it kind of, turns that, on its ear, kind of turns it upside down. It's really, really great adventure. If you're into horror and like the gothic horror, kind of stuff. There's a little bit of cosmic horror thrown in there as well, so there's some really great stuff. And this is an example of the flip mat. So again, these are separate purchases. You don't necessarily have to pick them up, but if it is a great combination. So if you're, chipping in as a group to purchase these things for, the game master in your group or family or, your friend circle, these are, like I said, pretty decent. The standalone adventure here is $22.99. and the flip mat is $14.99, and they will have some of the more prominent maps from the adventure. So again, it's just really, really cool stuff. I love these. We also have another standalone adventure that came out just a little while ago, actually, and this is the Night of Grey Death. It also comes with an accompanying flip mat. The flip mat is also $14.99. The adventure itself, again, is $22.99, so the standalone ones are a little bit cheaper. But this thing is really, really cool. I haven't done the review on it yet, but I will say there's some great role-playing opportunities. There is some, investigative stuff that the players do. And then you also get these like artifacts, these guillotines that actually entrap the soul of the individuals executed by them. But those souls don't just lay dormant. They go to some other really dark purpose. It's also a high-level adventure, starting off at 16th level, I think, and getting the players up to like 18th or maybe even 19th level by the time they're done. Just really, really great. But it's a high-level adventure that doesn't rely solely on just fight after fight after fight. There's actually some really good role-playing and other stuff that you can do in this adventure. Definitely worth checking out. Awesome stuff there. All right, so up next, I'm going to show off some of the accessories that you can get for Pathfinder 2nd Edition. I'm mainly focusing on just some of the newest stuff. There are some things like there's a Hero Point card deck that has come out. It's on its way to me. I just haven't received it as of yet, so I can't show it in this video, but it is definitely going to be, well, I shouldn't say definitely, but if all experiences with, the Pathfinder accessories is anything to go off of, it's going to be a super great accessory to have at your table, but I just don't have it on hand here. But what we do have are some really cool things here. So I showed you some flip mats already, but something else that Paizo does, especially if you're using miniatures or the pawns to represent what's going on in combat, Paizo also puts out these really awesome flip tile sets. So I've done some review videos of these already, including this particular one here. This one is the Fortress starter set, but there's a few different types of like starter sets you can get out there. And they're sort of like generic tiles. They're 6" by 6", and they have all kinds of different configurations that you can use on them. It's really, really great stuff. This one retails for $34.99 US. But in addition to that, so the starter sets, like I said, they're kind of generic, but we do also have the expansions. And the expansions, like this one here, goes with the Fortress set. This is Fortress Walls and Towers. So these are a little bit more specialized. There are fewer in the pack, and that's also reflected in the fact that this is only $19.99, but it's really, really awesome because, like I said, they have some great design to them, and the expansion packs, like I said, they get to be a little bit more niche or a little bit more specific versus the starter set, which has to be, generic enough that it can be useful for just about any situation, whereas the expansions can, again, sort of flesh things out a little bit more, but are able to be more specific at the time that they're doing it. So really, really great stuff here. I love the flip mats, but honestly, these tiles are probably my new favorite accessory from Paizo. The maps are great. I love, the ready-made maps because I've actually designed or come up with some ideas for adventures just by looking at them. But these things are so great here. These tiles are so great for having, like, if you have smaller gameplay area, so you don't have a larger table to unfold a full map on. They're great. They're more modular, so you can get a little bit more use out of them versus the flip mats, where you may want to put them away for a little bit and then bring them out for something else, a little while down the road. But overall, again, it's just really awesome stuff. I love these. All right, and up next, the next accessory, and the last accessory that I'm going to show here today, is one that's going to be tied to the first book that I'm going to show off here just in a second. But what we have here are the Pathfinder Bestiary 3 battle cards. Now, I've done videos for the Bestiary 1, Bestiary 2, and the NPC deck of these battle cards. These things are amazing. They are the stat blocks for every creature that you would find in the Bestiary 3, which is what we've got here. That's the hardcover version. There is also the pocket edition for this book available as well. I don't currently have it, but it is something that's out there. But yeah, it has all the creatures from this, but they're the individual cards. So again, if you are running in a public setting, or you just don't want to have to flip through the books to find the stat blocks, or you don't want to go back and forth between books to book to book, these battle cards are absolutely fantastic. Now they are probably the most expensive thing that I'm going to show here at $59.99 US, but you are getting over 400 cards in this box. Now, other RPGs have had these monster stat cards where they either had to release skip putting a card in a particular set because the stats were too large to fit on a single card that they were doing at the time, or they'll have cards that don't have any art on them because there were no art from the books. This will actually give you unique art for like everything. Now, the art will be the same as what's in the book. However, if there's something that's in this book but they don't have the artwork for, like sometimes it could be the different age categories of dragons, they will have new artwork specifically for the card set, even if it doesn't appear in the book. And that's really, really great. Also, if a creature's stats are too long to fit on a single card, they don't try to. They just, have a second card. It will say, on the first one, it will say continued on card number whatever, and then the next card will say continued from, and we'll have the rest of the stat block. The artwork for the monster will be on both cards, so it's easier to keep track of and, easier to find if you're going through the deck. It's just really fantastic stuff again, and, great accessory. Like I said, it's a little bit more pricey, but I have to say, as someone who has run again, games in public where I don't want to carry a ton of books with me, if I could just get the cards for all the creatures I'm going to be using in that session, that saves me a lot. And the cards are nice and large, they're easy to read. It's a great product all around. So again, definitely recommend checking it out. And we also have, of course, the Bestiary 3. So the Bestiaries are just great books in general. All kinds of great stuff in here. Now, this one actually has a bit of a theme to it. And that's something they did with first edition Pathfinder as well. Once you started getting past the Bestiary 2, they typically started having like themes around a lot of the creatures in the book. So what we have here is we actually have a theme of like folklore, or like mythology type of creatures. We got stuff like the tooth fairies, which are great. They're just these demonic looking things that can rip your teeth out, and there's a swarm of them. It's just really, really cool. There's just all kinds of really great stuff in this book. And if you're someone that likes to incorporate a little bit more folklore, like there's some Japanese folklore I think in here as well. Like the female, like the woman with her face covered, and she'll ask you if you think that she's beautiful, and if you say no, she'll kill you. If you say yes, she'll take the covering off her face and reveal this like, just mutilated jaw and everything. And it's just there's some really, really cool stuff in here. I did a review for it. I'm pretty sure I did a full flip through of it. So definitely I'll check out that video. It'll be in the Pathfinder playlist that you can click on at the end of this. But again, just some really, really great stuff. And I know I say that a lot, but honestly, Pathfinder 2nd edition, or Pathfinder books in general, Paizo does some really, really fantastic work. There's a lot of, great quality. You can tell that, the people that are designing these are passionate about what they're doing. There's just some really cool stuff here. The next book that I'm going to show is a new book for like new class options. It's not quite the same as like one of the core books, like with the Bestiaries or the Advanced Player's Guide or the Game Mastery Guide. This is sort of its own kind of like sub-series, I guess you could say. But this is The Secrets of Magic. Now again, really great book. There's some cool stuff in here. You get 2 new classes that are available in here, as well as some spellcasting variants. But for example, you can get the Magus, which is a martially oriented arcane caster. They have a limited selection of spells, but they also have abilities to wear armor and fight similar to a fighter. They're a really interesting class. And then you have the Summoner. So for Final Fantasy fans out there, you get these Eidolons that you can choose from different types of, augment their abilities. Again, just really awesome stuff. There's also, like I said, some new forms of magic in here as well. So you can have, I think there's like geomancy, there's like elementalism, but there's also a type of, way of preparing your spells in this book where you get fewer spells that you have available to you, but unlike the core rules, you don't have to prepare every single spell slot individually, specifically if like you're a wizard or cleric or like classes that actually prepare their spells. So this one will allow you just to prepare a certain number of spells, and then you can use those spells with your spell slots in any way that you know, are able to, based on like the level of the spell at minimum. But it gives you a little bit more flexibility at the cost of a few less spell slots. But it's an option. It's a really interesting option, and overall, it's a really cool book. That goes into like some of the, I guess you could say almost like the psychology behind some of the schools of magic. There's sort of like a textbook feel to the very first part before you get into the new class options. It's just, again, and I know I've said this, but it's a really cool book. And if you're looking for new options, or you know someone's looking for new options and you want to get them something really cool, this is a book that's definitely worth doing that for. And again, I believe there is a pocket edition for this. I just don't currently have it in my possession. Now, along the same lines of Secrets of Magic, we also have Pathfinder Guns and Gears. This is also a product that at the time that I'm recording this, I haven't actually gotten to do my full review of yet. But this is, it's basically exactly what it sounds like. It's a book that introduces, like, you know, mechanics and, like, I don't mean rules mechanics, but, like, actual, like, gear mechanical things. There's an adventure class. That's actually, that class is actually really cool because they have this, like, breakthrough, I guess you could say it is. I forget the exact terminology that they use, but it's like their own sort of unique creation. And it could be either a weapon they've designed, a suit of armor that they wear, or it can actually even be an automaton, like a robot that they create. And they're the only ones that can actually maintain it or get it to function. So, like, you can't just sell off these, you know, like unique items or armors or weapons or stuff. But it's a really cool class. And then you have the Gunslinger. So if you're someone who loves gunplay in your campaigns, then this is the book for you. If you want to introduce kind of a almost steampunk kind of feel with like the more gear-oriented stuff, that's available for you as well. I'm hoping to have my review for this out in the next few days. But it is a really interesting book. It's not quite, you know, what I'm looking for in a fantasy RPG, but I will say it is really well done. And despite the fact that I'm not huge on, you know, like gear stuff or like clockwork stuff or even really guns or gunpowder type weapons in my campaigns, this book does it so well that it's really got me intrigued. So I will say that for it. So really, again, awesome stuff there. If you're looking to, if you or your group or someone that you know is interested in this kind of stuff, this is out there. Again, I believe there's a pocket edition. I just simply don't have it. All right, so we're almost there. The last few books I'm going to show were all part of what's called the Lost Omens series of books. So the Bestiary 3 that I had shown, that was considered kind of like a core product, meaning that it's more oriented on rules, or in this case, just a bunch of monsters. I had sort of the alternate class, you know, or new class option books, Secrets of Magic and Guns and Gears, or Guns and Gears. But The Lost Omens is a series of books that are really more about world building. And they do an amazing job. And this is one of those things that I would say that a lot of these books, even if you're not running Pathfinder 1st or 2nd edition, just the world building stuff in here is, generally speaking, great for any fantasy RPG. So if you're doing a homebrew, or you're running, you know, a different system, there's still some really great stuff in here to consider. So the first one that we've got here, this is Lost Omens Legends, and this features just some write-ups and explanations on some, again, just legendary creatures from, or characters or individuals from the Pathfinder universe, or the Galarian, I guess you could say. There are some like new things in here. There are some new like player options, like there's some feats, or there might be some equipment. But what's great about this is that, again, it gives you these characters, gives you these individuals of import that you can use in your game, but they don't stat them. And the reason for that is they may be from different periods in history, or, you know, they may not necessarily be meant as foes or, you know, antagonists. It's just, again, it's just a really cool concept. And this is a book that you can give to, you know, game masters or players, and they can get some really great, stuff out of it just from reading it, or some cool ideas for individuals that they could try to incorporate in their background. It's a really cool book, and it's one of my favorites in the series. We also have the Lost Omens Pathfinder Society Guide. So the Pathfinder Society is actually an organization within the Pathfinder world. So this is just some information on the actual society itself, how you become a member, some of the perks of membership, as well as some of the, the important characters and stuff like that that you may see in there as well. Again, it's a really, really cool book. It's probably the one that I would say, if you're looking at some of these for ideas that you could use in your own game, like the society stuff is really cool. But it is very, very tied to, obviously a very specific aspect of the Pathfinder setting. So do with that what you will, but it is a great book regardless, and one that I highly recommend. We've also got the Lost Omens Ancestry Guide. So this just gives you a whole bunch of new ancestries that you can play as. So we got like the lizard folk, you've got all kinds of cool stuff in here. It's a really, really good book. Again, this is one that is pretty much specific to Pathfinder 2nd Edition, because a lot of what's in this book are creature stats for the game. So this one doesn't really translate over as well to other role-playing games. But if you're using the Pathfinder rules, this is still a great book for expanding player character options. And again, there's some really, really, really great stuff in here. Let me just have a quick look at the table of contents so you can see some of the races that are included. So you have the Aasimar, the Changeling, the Damphir, which is sort of like a half vampire. You've got some more Leshy, or you got Leshies, lizard folk, orcs, the Tengu, which are like the crow people, hobgoblins, kobolds. Just again, some really, really cool stuff. There's androids in here as well, so it's sort of a little bit of a blend of Starfinder and Pathfinder, which is really neat. Geniekin, there's sprites, there's just a lot of really cool stuff in here. It is a fantastic book, and if you know someone that's a player, specifically in Pathfinder 2nd Edition, and they don't have this book yet, this would be a great gift to give them, because there's just so much cool stuff that they can use in that book. All right, up next, we've got, of all the books that have come out this year, these are probably two of my all-time favorites. I shouldn't say all-time, but my favorites for the stuff that's come out this year. Secrets of Magic was really high up there. The Legends, Lost Omens Legends was up there, but these two books are probably my favorite that we've had. So the first one is the Lost Omens Malangi Expanse. This is a campaign setting, but it is so good. I was really entranced with some of the stuff that's in here. There's just some really cool takes on some of the conventional ancestries that you can play in Pathfinder. There's some really awesome and interesting locations in here as well. I did a review video on this as well, so it'll be in the Pathfinder playlist if you want to check it out. But just like as an example, like they have a species of dwarf, or not a species, but a group of dwarves that they sort of venerate the sky and these sky gods. And they will actually, they'll dye their hair and their beards in these super elaborate patterns. But those patterns are designed to mimic what the sky looked like when some sort of major event took place. One of the examples that I thought would be kind of cool to have the player sort of witness if they're going through the Expanse and interacting with these dwarves and doing something for them is that maybe like a dwarf NPC that they know will, change their hairstyle to reflect what the sky looked like at the time that they first met the characters, after they do something kind of, interesting like that way. There's also like this sort of like Egypt kind of themed location in there as well. I'm not going to go too much into that, but look for that in the review. That's my favorite part of the book overall, is like sort of this like Egyptian kind of feeling thing with this, this pharaoh, this living, well, not quite living, but this godchild that has some really dark, powers and abilities. Just awesome stuff. Fantastic book. One of the best campaign settings I've read in a long time. Definitely recommend, again, checking that out if you know someone that's looking for some new places to explore in their games. And then the last one, this is with the most recent of the Lost Omens books that have come out, at least at the time I'm recording this video. There is going to be a Lost Omens book for the city of Absalom, which is one of the main locations in the Pathfinder world. I just don't have it yet. I don't think it's actually out yet on store shelves, but it is coming out very, very soon. I just wanted to get this video because if I wait too long to get all some of the cool stuff that's coming, I won't get this video out in time. So what we have here, though, is the Lost Omens Grand Bazaar. Now, the Grand Bazaar is this massive marketplace inside of Absalom, the city of Absalom. And this, I just recently did a video on this, but this book is amazing. So it has a series of some of like the more notable stores or shops or stalls that the characters can interact with. It gives you information, detailed information on the proprietor of these locations, including some great background information that you can use to design adventures around. It gives you some unique items that each shop has. It also gives you a breakdown of some of the more shops later on, but in less detail. There's just some really incredible stuff in this book. And like I said, the thing is, this is also one, because like I said, there are some like items and equipment and stuff like that in this book that is Pathfinder 2e specific or designed for that game. But just the information, like the overwhelming amount of information and background on the shops, the shopkeepers, like the history of the business, all that stuff. It's so well done and so, well written and just so well thought out. And the adventure of the plot hooks can translate into just about any fantasy RPG. So again, even if you aren't necessarily running, or the person that you're looking to buy something for isn't necessarily doing Pathfinder first or second edition, but they're into like fantasy RPGs, this is still an amazing book to pick up for them. Because again, it just goes into so much detail and so much flavor that it can really enhance any game that you use it in. There's just some really, really great stuff. So there we go. That was some example of some of the new stuff that's come out for the Pathfinder role-playing game in 2021. So yeah, let me know in the comments below if you've picked any of this stuff up for either yourself or anyone that you may know, friends or family that you're looking to buy some stuff for. Yeah, let me know that in the comments below. I hope this video was helpful. If nothing else, it gives you an idea of some of the stuff that's actually out there, and point you in the right direction anyway. So I hope it helped. Anyway, thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you all next time. Take care.